should Junior Series champions be allowed to return to the series?
I mean, it's a very interesting topic, and we have talked about it for a while. We have been waiting to do this topic on the podcast for a while, and it's interesting because on the one hand, you don't want the Formula 2 champion to be sitting on the sidelines after winning a championship, right? But and that's why you want them to return to Formula 2 and race again. And I mean, for me, that is the only case where this allowing them to return should be applicable. Because if a Formula 3 champion or a Formula regional champion returns to Formula Regional and Formula 3 to defend the championship, basically, there is no real progress for them. There is no real progress in their career. So it progress in their career. So I mean, it would be a safer way for them to, they won't need much, a larger budget and just stay back. But there is no real growth for them. In Formula 2, if a Formula 2 champion, if they don't get a Formula 1 seat, different story. I still think it should not be allowed, but I think we can give an exemption to Formula 2 champions sometimes, I guess.
Well, I think most of the other series, motorsport series like Moto 2, Moto 3, and others, and Indy Lights and so on, they don't have the same rule, right? And especially on the European side of things, W Series got Jamie Chadwick back because of basically because to continue to have the most competitive grid possible. So why wouldn't a junior racing series want their champion to stay back and continue to keep the level up, the competitive level of the series much higher than what it would be without them? That's it.
It's interesting, but firstly, a, a a championship's merit is based on how many people graduate. A junior championship's merit is based on how many people graduate from that championship to the next year. So if only one Formula 3 driver, only the champion moves on to Formula 3, then it's not a very competitive grid. Like it doesn't reflect well for Formula 3. But if 5 Formula 3 drivers uh, get promoted to Formula 2 for the next season, then it reflects very nicely on Formula 3, and it just shows that Formula 3 is creating meritful racing and good drivers. That's the first part. So I don't think, I mean, it would be good for Formula 3 to hold on to their drivers competitive level at the same level, but there are junior championships, so they won't. I guess they want their drivers to get promoted, right?
But let's try to apply this to like a series like Formula 2, which is either Formula 1 or you stay in the same series, because obviously from Formula 3 I understand argument that
Yeah.
it's upwards or it's kind of pointless, right? But it's the issue with Formula 2 that we are facing, because Formula 2 usually has enough seats to accommodate people who have enough budget and are doing well to move up the ladder. But it's usually the jump from Formula 2 to Formula 1 that is
Yeah.
the difficult one to
Yeah.
make.
I mean, that's kind of the main issue here, right? It's a funnel. It's a funnel because
But
in karting there are so many people moving on from karting to the next step, Formula 4 or Formula Regional, and the next, like, a few people move on from Formula Regional to Formula 3 and so on. It's really the case about having the next step open for you. So clearly Formula 2 drivers don't have a next step open for them by default. They need to have.
But here's the caveat. I understand what you're saying, right? It's a funnel. There aren't as many seats open in the next level, which is understandable. You wanna, and that's how it almost should be, right?
Yep.
Because up at the top, you want the best of the best, right? You want the creme de la creme. But here's the caveat, right? And I also agree with the fact that the junior series are
To the
there
top.
to
Yeah.
push the best to the highest level possible. Yeah, to the top, right? But here's the caveat: if you win a series in your first year, second year, third year, and now
Yeah.
Felipe Dragovic, I think, who won in his fourth year, you were in that series for that much longer, right? Longer, right? Regardless of what the reason was. So why should a driver who's not at a
To
level,
move on to Formula 2, Formula 1. Yeah.
to win the championship,
Yeah.
to move on to the next to move on to the next level, should be allowed to stay in the championship so much longer than someone who's won and who could really be an issue for moving from Formula 3 to Formula 2, who could really give them a challenge. Why is someone like, let's say, I don't want to use the example of Roy Nissani, but that's what's coming to my head right now. But someone like Roy Nissani, I think he's
Yep.
been in Formula 2 what, like 3-4 seasons now, right? So what? But he can continue to be in Formula 2 as long as he doesn't win the championship. So do you think? So obviously that is a caveat in this. Why are you ousting the F2 champion or your series champion if he can't move forward instead of just keeping him where he can continue to increase the level of competition of that series? And this is the caveat that I want to talk about. And I think instead of simply ousting your champion, I think if there's a seat available, you bring him in, you let him come back, you let any champion come back, really, any F2 champion come back to that series, or any other junior series champion come back if they can't move forward for. Here's my suggestion. My suggestion is put a cap on how many years you can do in that particular series. Put a cap in, like, and it doesn't have to be like a lifetime cap, right? That you can only race for 3 years in your life in this series, and then it's upwards or nowhere, right? It can be like 3 in 6 years, 3 in 7 years. So put a cap like that. Years. So put a cap like that where you're still pushing talent through the junior series upwards, but you're trying to keep the most competitive grid possible.
Yeah, I mean, the
How does that sound to you?
number of years capped is a very good suggestion. It will guarantee filtering out of, I mean, champion is a unique position to be in. So if you keep that aside for a moment, having a cap on number of years you can race in Formula 2, let's for example, is very good because it will filter out the competition. It will create more seats for Formula 3 drivers. It will create more seats for Formula 4 drivers into Formula Regional and into Formula 3. So it just accelerates the process, and with that happening, there will be extra seats for a returning Formula 2 champion, or even a returning Formula 3 champion into Formula 3, right? So that serves both the purposes.
And as much as I agree with Bruno Michel that, right, we're here trying to make champions out of the people coming up, and it's about talent and whatnot. I think we also need to recognize there's no guarantee of an F1 seat anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest, right? To get an F1 seat, being an F2 champion is like a quarter of the requirement. You need to have a tie up with an F1 team beforehand. You need to be a part of the junior academy. You need to have some sort of a TPC program almost, like McLaren has, and be a part of that, and be testing those cars all the time. And even then, even after, if you finish second in the championship, there is no guarantee that you will move through into F1. Like, which is why the class of 2018, was it that Charles was a part of?
No,
2017.
Charles was
George,
1 year senior to them.
Charles, and then was in yeah. So the class of 20 Russell, Lando, and Albon. The reason they're so coveted is because the top three moved on to F1, which is why everybody thinks they're so much better, which is probably the case. And we also have to understand the fact that the teams are not just recruiting drivers based on how well they do in F2. They're also evaluating them in, like I said, during the TBC programs, by not just giving them running time, but also seeing how they interact with the team and all these other factors that we are not really privy to outside as fans. And I think that is the ground reality, which is why to just not allow your F2 champion to come back is sort of a weird place, and you can also cap the F2 champions. It doesn't have to be like the F2 champion can stay on in the series
Years,
after whatever the capped years are. But if there's an empty seat there, no one can take it, or whatever that is, then he gets first preference to come back, and he can come back and elevate the level of racing for that series over the next season. So I think that is a good middle of the road solution to that. However, I don't know why, but it just seems like any change on that level will require a lot of agreement from all the
Yeah,
stakeholders.
I mean,
And
it's
it's just not going to
absolutely,
happen. Agreement from all the
yeah,
stakeholders,
I mean,
and
it's
it's just not going to
absolutely,
happen.
it's it's a very interesting topic, as we have said so many times. But here's an hypothetical situation. From what I believe, from where I'm sitting at, Felipe Drogovic would not have signed, like, Aston Martin would not have signed Felipe Drogovic, even if he was like, even if he had won the F2 championship in the hypothetical world as well. But if he had the option to stay back in Formula 2, Aston Martin would not have signed him. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's where I'm coming from. Because Aston Martin, reserve driver in the tie-ups with Mercedes and everyone. So, like, Nick De Vries till now was had the role of reserve driver with Mercedes, and Nico Hülkenberg had the role of reserve driver with uh, Aston Martin. So they had a pool ready, and again, if he had the option, he would not have moved over, and he would not have gotten that deal with Aston Martin. So
Not necessarily. I feel like most F2 drivers,
no,
they want to
they
work
want
with
to
an
work.
F1
See,
team because
here's the
they know
difference.
that
They
is
want to
where the
work, but
opportunity lies.
I'm not like Felipe Drogovic did not have an F1 affiliation till he won the Formula 2 championship. Aston Martin only picked him
Yeah,
because he won the championship. Felipe Drogovic wanted to be with any, but no F1 team wanted to be with him till he won the championship. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, that'll come down to like every individual case, whether the driver,
Yeah.
what the workload looks like as a simulator driver or like a reserve driver, and all of those, and it could be that even if you win a championship, and if you're part of a reserve driver program or or a simulator driver, it could be that you might still get to participate in a different championship. Like we saw Liam Lawson participate in F2
Yeah.
and DTM
Yeah.
at the same time. So it's not unheard of, right? It's just where does the sweet spot lie? What are the opportunities? And which is why I'm saying, one of the cases could be if there's an outstanding seat for your champion, you let him come back in. But also at the same time, don't let talent that is
Yeah.
just there for 4 or 5 years to be just there and take up
Yeah,
seats.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people in Formula 2 have been criticized about just staying there and just being stagnant in the Formula 2 ladder. Even Latifi was in Formula 2 for quite a while before he secured P2 in the championship and moved on to F1. So yeah, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. You can't have drivers be in the championship and basically block space. They're not moving forward. They're just blocking space. They're just taking space. Yep.